Well, we're quoting Independence Day.
Independence Day.
Hey, everybody, we are live. Welcome to another episode of Keystroke Medium. I am Josh Hayes here with Chuck Manley and Scott Moon. We are here with Craig Schaefer tonight.
Hey, everybody.
We were going to try a new thing with the Facebook tonight, but because we shared all the links previous to the show, we decided... Yeah. Way to go, Chuck.
I did nothing, so I didn't
blame it on the intern. Blame it on the intern.
Intern screws it all up.
That's why I don't do anything, because I never mess anything up, because I just don't touch anything. Usually the best thing.
Well, it's season 3, and we're on episode 38. We have passed the halfway mark finally for... Well, I think we passed it a couple weeks ago, but I forgot to mention that we passed the halfway mark for season 3, ticking down to season 4. And
that's wild.
We've had some really good guests on this year, and we've got a whole bunch of them lined up. And finally, we were able to get Craig on the show. I think we've been emailing back and forth for, man, it's been a couple months, I think.
Yeah, well, longer than that, because I was going to be on the show, and then I moved from Illinois to North Carolina, and that kind of took me out of action for a few months. And here I am, finally situated.
And moving's so much fun. We should all move just for grins. Let's all move.
We're so much fun.
Oh, I hate moving.
Where in North Carolina are you?
I'm in Cary, which is near Raleigh, Durham.
Yeah, that's about 8 hours east of me.
Okay,
yeah, I know where you're at.
Oh, it's about 24 and a half hours from me, so we'll just all meet for lunch.
24 and a half.
Right.
I like that you know it to that exact number. That's precision.
Yeah. It's actually 24
most of my
hours
ride, it's just that area.
Yeah. It's actually 24 hours and 13 minutes, but I decided to round up.
So like 24 hours and 28 minutes.
Well, you might hit a light, so.
Well, you hit a light, you get construction. Sometimes you just got to stretch it out a little bit.
Slows things down.
Get stopped at a checkpoint or something for seatbelts because of a stop.
I tell you, the new thing we might be able to do with Facebook looks really neat, guys. Chuck and I tested it out earlier today, and I think maybe next week. Do we have anybody on the show next week?
I think it's a roundtable next week, isn't it?
That's a good time to try some shenanigans.
Next week's going to be a roundtable. So next week we will try the new format, streaming directly to Facebook. That means if you're going to watch, we're not going to be paying attention to live chat on YouTube. It's going to be live chat on Facebook, and then you guys can share it around.
Slightly delayed live chat.
Grow our audience a little bit, but everybody that is in the live chat tonight, thank you for hanging out with us. Welcome. All the regulars are there. Rick's causing a ruckus as usual, so thank you guys for showing up and hanging out with us. Let's kick it off with a bang. Craig, will you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into writing?
Okay, I'm Craig Schaefer, and I write books mostly. I've written the Daniel Faust series, the Harmony Black series, the Revanche Cycle, and my most recent work is the Wisdom's Grave trilogy, which is, as of 3 weeks ago, now over halfway done. And how did I get into writing? Well, I was always into writing. I was into writing since I was 5 years old, maybe. I mean, I knew from the day I knew I wanted anything that this is the life I wanted. And I didn't pursue it right away. I pursued it in terms of I'd write things, I'd write stories, I'd write stuff teenagers write. But I came to a point where, I'm 20-something, I'm in the workforce full-time, and that dream just kind of got deferred, like it does. You start building your career, you start moving forward in corporate America, and time for art slips aside. And there's an old Jimmy Buffett song that I love called "He Went to Paris."
That's a good song.
It's a great song. And it really captures what life is like when you're older and looking back, because it's got this, basically this guy goes to Paris looking for answers to questions that bothered him so, and he just gets distracted, and the lyric is 4 or 5 years slipped away. And that's how life goes. You get into something, you kind of lose track of what you're really there for, and the next thing you know, you're older. And you're celebrating not just one more birthday, you're celebrating a lot of birthdays. So I hit 40, and I was in a penthouse in Vegas on my 40th birthday, and I just took a long look at my life, and I said, what do I really want? And the answer was the same as it was when I was 5 years old. I wanted to be a writer. And I said, look, I don't really have anything else to live for right now. So why don't I just put everything I have fucking got? Can I swear on the show?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fuck yes. Go for it.
Fucking excellent. Okay. So why don't I just put everything I have fucking got into making this happen? And if I can't, I can't. But if I can, then I'll have done what I dreamed of my entire life. This is my purpose. And so I set about writing full time, and 3 years after that, made it a reality. And here I am today.
That's awesome. What I love the clarity and the intensity of that. So what, just off the top of my head, what is the very first thing you did when you made that decision?
At the very moment, basically I said, what do I want to write? Where do I want to focus? What's my market research? You know, because I come from a business background. So I'm very, you know, that what led me to self-publishing because, you know, a friend of mine, basically I was intent on going the traditional publishing route because I thought that was the only option.
Right.
I did. And this is a funny, sad story. Basically, the first thing I wrote after that, ended up with an agent, got locked up for a year in an exclusive read. Basically, she said, I love this, but I need more time to decide. Can I have like another month? I said, yeah, sure. Yeah, you know, an agent says, can I have an exclusive read? You say yes, right? That's what we're taught.
Very excited
said, yes.
when they told you that. Like, you're probably jumping for joy when they first,
I was over the moon.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, so she says, you know, can I have a month? I said, of course. Month goes by. No answer. I said, hey, remember me? And she says, yeah, I'm really swamped. Can I have like 2 more months? I'm like, yeah, of course. 2 months go by. No answer. She says, I'm still swamped. Can I have another couple months? I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, it's an agent. How often do you get an agent interested in you to that?
Right.
So, you know.
Right. An agent, yeah.
So a year passes. She sends me a form letter rejection.
Oh my God.
Your material is not suitable for our needs at this time. And I was like, what the fuck did I just do for a year? I mean, at the time, however, I was working on a sequel to that book. I was working on the third part of that trilogy. You know, I was still working, but that book was locked up. And I was disillusioned and I was upset. I was like, is this just a pipe dream? Is this crazy? Then Kelly, a really good friend of mine, said, hey, have you looked into this self-publishing thing? And I said, you know, isn't that like vanity presses? And she's like, no, this is a real thing. Look at this. And I did. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is not what I thought it was at all. This is a real new way to reach readers.
Right.
And because I have a business background, I immediately launched into it like an entrepreneur. You know, I ran cost assessments. I studied everybody I could study. Success stories, failure stories, figured out what people were doing wrong, what, you know, everything, the entire market. And then I made a battle plan.
Interesting that we've had a couple of people on the show that have gone into it kind of with that specific mindset of just, you know, having the love of writing, but also not coming into this thing kind of with a jaded, I'm just going to write a book and it's going to sell 1 million copies. You came in with a purposeful, like you said, a game plan and like just start that. I kind of get into your stories here in a minute, but I'm scrolling through your Amazon page and it's obvious that you know what you're doing just on a just a pure visual of like just your covers, the way that you've branded your covers in your series, just the way that they don't look half-assed, and so I'm curious on when you set forth and you set that plan up, you know, you have to consider all these things, editing, formatting, covers, and all that stuff. So how much research did you do? I mean, on top of the writing, did you put into covers and formatting and editing, and that really kind of sets you apart from the other people that were doing it with you? Because you look through, you've got hundreds and hundreds of reviews on, you know, 20 plus books. So, I mean, obviously you're doing something right.
Well, I vetted easily over probably 20 editors and 20 cover designers before I settled on the ones that I thought would match what I needed. I am a firm believer in building a strong team. No one person can do everything themselves. It cannot be done. And if you try, it's a fool's errand. You're a sucker. I'm a writer. I write. That's what I do. That's what I'm good at. I cannot design covers. No one can edit themselves. Let's get clear on that. No one can, right. No one should, ever. So I knew I needed to build a strong team to form the core of my success. just like I have in every other endeavor I've ever been in. So I set out, I said, I'm going to look at the entire market. I'm going to see who's available to me as a freelancer. And I'm going to make overtures to them and say, hey, can I bring you on long term? Can we make this a relationship, not just a one-term, one book deal? That's what I did. I mean, I've gone further than that. When I finally got into audiobooks, which I got into late, I think it was like my 4th novel before I finally discovered audiobooks.
Yeah.
I vetted 100 voice actors for my Faust series. And then when I needed a female actor for the Revanche Cycle, I vetted another 100 actors for that.
And so, and that seems like that's a very time-consuming process. Are there things you learn, like with your business background, how to make that efficient and be organized? Because a lot of writers they come to it with a lack of any type of business skills. That's one of the hardest things.
It really is one of the hardest things. I'm really fortunate that I had that experience, because I know it saved me so much time and effort. And I fail a lot, but I also know from experience that failing is how you learn in business and in life.
You got to fail quickly.
Yeah, you fail quickly. You learn what you did wrong. You don't do it again. As long as you don't do it again, that failure was not a waste of time.
That's my problem. I like to do it again.
That
was terrible.
I just think I'm genetically incapable of thinking in business terms. That's just I don't know. It all seems like gambling to me.
There is a level of gambling.
You can line up your marketing and you can do everything, but you cannot control how people are going to react.
You absolutely can't. And I've had big failures. I mean, the Revanche Cycle is a huge failure. It was, I was at a point where I needed to write something different. I needed to stretch my wings artistically. I needed to try something new.
Right.
I had this idea. I was super excited. I still am super proud of it. And it flopped. The Revanche Cycle is my least selling series by an order of magnitude. It flopped hard. And it gets good reviews. People who like it really, really like it. But it flopped.
Huh.
And fortunately, I knew that I needed to build in a level of security. I said, okay, I'm going to do this 4-book series. I'm going to plan it as 4 books in case it fails. My Faust books were selling really well. So I said, okay, I'm going to do one of these books, then a Faust book, one of these books, then a Faust book. Right. So if it collapses, I have income coming in. Mm-hmm. That's the value of experience, is that you know how to make those precautions.
Strategy.
What do you think caused it to not sell as well as your other books?
Largely because by that time I was known as an urban fantasy author. And I thought people were into me as a writer. No, they're into the Faust books. They're into the Harmony books. They're into the specific things that they like that I make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, you like these gritty urban fantasy novels. Here's an epic Game of Thrones style dark fantasy. And they're like, yeah, I don't want that. I don't want any of that.
That's a really good point, because I love George R. Martin. I really love the Game of Thrones books, but I've never read anything else he's written. I've never had any desire to read any of his other books, which is really strange.
Like, he does the wild cards thing, which is like superheroes in a sci-fi setting.
And I like
it's so different.
Yeah, I've read a lot of those. So speaking of the dastardly Daniel Faust, tell us, and our viewers that might not be familiar with it, tell us about the Faust universe, because what I love about it is that if you look at male protagonist urban fantasy these days, sort of the gold standard is obviously the Dresden Files.
Sure.
And they have the big wizened court of wizards who sort of enforces magical law and yada, yada, yada. And you sort of looked at that and said, fuck that, and went your own way. Tell us about that.
I should establish, for people who don't know, all of my books are set in the same universe, the same multiverse. Basically, there is a string of parallel worlds. So the Revanche Cycle, which is this Game of Thrones epic, is just the world next door from the Faust novels.
Cool. Oh, okay.
And the characters and concepts often overlap and interweave between them. Basically, Daniel Faust is a career criminal who hung out his shingle as a quote-unquote hired wand. And he basically worked for the gang boss of Las Vegas as his enforcer, because the nice thing about magic is if you kill somebody with a curse, it looks like a heart attack as opposed to shooting them,
Right.
If you're a magician, you can walk through a metal detector. Nothing stops you. So the underlying idea in the Faust universe is the vast majority of magicians are criminals. Because you get this power, and it's like, wait a second, so I can make my boss give me a raise. I can make that person I like fall in love with me. I can do all these horrible, shitty, unethical things. Awesome.
Yep.
And Daniel is pretty much, he's a freelance criminal. At this point of the series, I don't know how much I should say on that. Well, it's in the friggin' book blurb, so it's not much of a spoiler to say he basically, over the course of the series, climbs to the top of the Vegas underworld. And at this point, it pretty much is a supernatural mafia story.
Yeah.
People love mafia stories. I love mafia stories.
Oh yeah, they're fun.
But like one of my favorite aspects of the setting, though, is that it's sort of like the whole first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club.
Yes. Yeah.
There's no magical council that's going to come down on you if you start telling everybody you can do magic. It's like, no, all your friends are going to get together and curb stomp your ass for it.
Right. That's the underlying thing. There is a masquerade in the setting where no one talks about magic. And the reason is it makes money. No one wants to be the asshole who kills the golden goose that made everybody money, because the second people know magic is real, there's going to be, literal witch hunts. There's going to be people trying to figure out, okay, how do we handle this in a court of law? How do you prove that somebody put a curse on their neighbor? And as comes up in the Harmony Black series, that's even a nightmare on a governmental level, because it's like, okay, someone says, I killed my neighbor because I was possessed by a demon. Well, prove it.
Right.
Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. You don't know.
Right.
How are you going to make that? How are you going to make that a legal thing? You have to give people the benefit of the doubt, or people are just screwed. So the world is not equipped. Our systems are not equipped to handle magic.
Yeah.
So a growth industry for magical lawyers that could prove that. I can prove that they were possessed by said demon.
That's more of a Max Gladstone thing, and he's really good at that.
Yeah.
So all the different series. So you have the Wizard's Grave trilogy. You have Detonation Boulevard that just came out last month. Are you still alternating between the book series when you publish, or are you going through and doing?
Right now, I decided when I wrote the second book of the Wisdom's Grave trilogy, it ends on, I won't say cliffhanger. I mean, it's not like the last pages and then the car exploded. I don't do that. But it is the second part of a trilogy, and there's a very strong metafictional component to the entire trilogy. Like it's the fictional equivalent, the fantasy equivalent of like the Scream movies. You remember Scream, where it's like they're talking about the rules of a slasher film and what you have to do to survive.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's very much an element in the framing story of the Wisdom's Grave trilogy where it's like, well, okay, the second book of a trilogy, everybody knows that's the dark point. That's, Empire Strikes Back. Luke just found out Darth Vader is his father and got his hand chopped off, and he's, everything is lost. Everything's terrible. So that's how the story ends, where everything being pretty much terrible and a tiny spark of hope. And I said, I really need to just put out the third book. So I'm just driving ahead and working on that now to get that out next.
Very cool. I have to tell you, I love these covers. I said it before, but I'll say it again. I cannot get over how well your Daniel Faust book, the very just edgy kind of almost gothic horror look to it, with the magical. I can see the magical man, and that's so cool that you were able to nail that down.
Thank you. Well, I can't take credit for the covers. That's all goes to James D. Egan, my artist, but we work really closely together. And he comes to me and basically says, we start with a synopsis. He's like, what is this book about? Because he does not have time to read the entire book, obviously.
Right.
But so I write up a full detailed synopsis. And I highlight the key points that I think might work for a cover design. And then I tell him, what's the symbolism? What's important in this book? What are the messages that I'm trying to convey? And he comes up with a design, and then we go back and forth, and finally he perfects it. But the man's a genius. I think he's one of the best people working in the industry today. I'm so proud to have him on my team.
They're absolutely some of my favorite covers that are out there right now. I mean, on all of them.
And you said you vetted a lot. You said you vetted all your people. So how did you come? Are there tips for finding somebody to do your book covers like?
In terms of book covers, look at their samples. I mean, any book cover you want, any cover designer you want to work with obviously has a portfolio.
Right.
Yes, I mean, everybody has to start from somewhere, and maybe you want to take a chance on somebody who just started. I have no advice for that. I mean, yes, probably the next great cover designer is just looking for clients right now, but I have no experience in figuring out who's the person to go with. James had been around for years at that point. He had a really good portfolio. And when I looked at it, I saw what I was looking for. I did not want to have, right, there's a thing with genre where every cover in a genre looks exactly the goddamn same.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of sci-fi, there's a spaceship on the cover. There's
Right.
always a spaceship on the cover. Urban fantasy, there's a person on the cover with a gun
with
and
a
a
sword.
burning hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A sword and a burning hand. They've all got fucking burning hands. It's this weird ass thing. All of them.
It's a big problem. They're trying to cure the burning hand syndrome. It's takes
Look at the whole fundraiser.
we got magical
Burning-
doctors, right?
That's our next Keystroke Medium fundraiser.
Yeah, cure burning
Burning
hand.
hands.
Won't
That's right.
someone think of the burning hand syndrome? The poor children.
Yeah.
What about the children with burning hands?
But, I was adamant that I did not want to go that route. I did not want something that looked like everything else in the genre. I wanted something that said, hey, this is something a little different than what you're maybe expecting, a little offbeat, and then I'd have to challenge myself to deliver. So that's what we went with. And James didn't fall into those patterns. He had very unique covers, very expressive covers, and that was what I wanted. That fit my writing.
Right.
I was going to say, you want them slightly the same. You want a reader to be able to look at the cover and say, yeah, that's an urban fantasy cover.
You want them to know what they're getting. It's like you don't want Fabio with his shirt off on a gritty crime novel, obviously.
Right.
I don't know. Scott might like that.
I might like that. I just buy it for the book cover and never read it.
But it's
So
go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, we've kind of explored Daniel. You talked about how he's basically a career criminal, and you've built up this great cast around him with his adopted parents and Caitlin and just all the people that he deals with. But then forget which book it was. You brought in FBI agent Harmony Black.
That was Redemption Song, the second book.
Redemption Song, correct. And you spun her off. Let's talk about the spin-offs and how you decided to do that. And I mean, was there a lot of fan involvement and like, wow, we really like Harmony, or did you just kind of decide to do it because you liked her?
What happened there was 47 North Publishing approached me, and they said, we really like the Faust books. We don't want to acquire them. There was a time a while back, if you all remember, when a lot of publishers were going after self-publishers and saying, hey, you just did this trilogy, let's buy it and we'll take it and give it new covers and put it out under our imprint. And that still happens sometimes. It just happened to somebody big recently that I think Tor picked up, or Orbit. But by and large, that's not quite a thing anymore, because they've realized it's like if you sell 10,000 copies of a book when it's indie published, those 10,000 people are not going to buy it again.
Right.
So they said, we like your writing. We like this series. We don't want this series. We want something else from you. Would be interested in writing for us. I'm like, yeah, I would. So I wrote a list, and I'm pretty sure every writer has a whole list of projects they want to work on someday, in our copious free time.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Like everybody wants to write a llama adventure.
Oh, God.
I have this thing with llamas right now. I'm sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, that's valid. So, I gave him this. I gave him my list. I wrote down like every dream project I had, and one of the items was I wanted to do a spin-off of the Faust series. And I said, I thought Harmony might be an interesting character because she represents law and order. It could be interesting to see the perspective of a law and order person in this criminal universe. Oh, yeah. And I didn't think they'd go for it. I was almost certain it was just like, I'll just throw this on there just in case. And they came back and said, yeah, we want a Harmony book. I'm like,
nice.
Okay, I'll write that. So I wrote it on spec, and it came back, and they gave me a 2-book contract, and we were off to the races.
That's outstanding.
So you pitched the idea, they liked it, and then did you have to write the entire thing before they accepted it, or did they pretty much accept it before? Okay.
Yeah, they basically said, we like the idea, show us what you got.
Yeah.
So I just canceled everything. I canceled a week-long vacation. I canceled my life. At that point, I was still working a day job, so I took out all my vacation days and just locked myself in a room and got it done.
Nice.
Who was it? Who was just talking about gambling? Chuck, you were talking about gambling because
the marketing thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know of one other author that did that, where they were writing another series. They had a couple books out in one series. I can't remember if it was a publisher like 47 North or like somebody wanted to option it for like TV or something. But somebody came to him and said, we want this. We want it as a trilogy. We want your third book. If you can deliver, then, maybe we can we'll talk about like TV deal or whatever, right? So he dropped everything, canceled all his stuff, like took all his vacation, all that stuff, wrote it, like knocked it out in like 3 weeks or whatever, and then they didn't buy it.
That can happen.
And so like
but
that
even
gambling,
then, though, I mean, don't you have the option? It was like, okay, they didn't want it, fine, but I'm going to then just do it yourself, right?
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not technically a waste because you can still do something with it, but I mean, then you have stuff like Greg's talking about, where just that's life changing stuff right there.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the
absolutely.
llama in this story.
And then the llama shows up with a ham.
I've had 2 beers.
You're gonna have to put a demonic llama in one of your next books,
Right,
there, Craig.
Writing is like any business, but even I think more so in some ways, this is a job for gamblers. If you are not comfortable rolling the dice, do not become a writer. Especially do not become a writer full time. Every single project you undertake is a gamble.
Oh yeah, a big gamble too, because you're talking like hundreds of hours of your life, and then you may get nothing back for it. And so,
absolutely,
time is a much bigger deal than money. You can't get that time back. You
Right.
can
Never always make more money.
In theory, you
I'm comfortable with gambling. I just suck at it.
He walks in, he goes, I want everything on red right now.
That's it. Red 11 or whatever.
Yeah. We had some questions in the live chat. We should probably get to them because they're pretty good questions.
Oh, cool.
I want to do Lauren had a really good question, and I want to hit that, but I want to do the show sponsor first so we can bang it out of the way and then jump right into Lauren's question there.
Is the show sponsor a llama?
Yes, ish.
You got to get to grips with this llama thing, man. You got to get to grips with it.
Yeah,
we
need to start a Llama Anonymous, an LA group for Scott.
Last week it was coyotes.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
It's just an animal group. So this week's sponsor is Aethon Books. It is a new publishing company started by Steve Bowler and Rhett Bruno. They are running a Kickstarter right now to assist them in launching their company. I have signed with them to write a trilogy next year, and I actually got a lot of words done on this morning, and I was super excited about it. But their Kickstarter is still going. They are very close to their goal. I think they are $440 from their stated goal right now of $2,000. They have $1,560 raised. And so what I'm going to do is this will go for 23 days. So it is the 3rd of September. So it'll go to the 26th of September, almost the whole month. And so you can go to their Kickstarter, you can sign up, and you can donate or pledge money. You can pledge $1, you can pledge $5, you can pledge $10, you can pledge $1,000. Pledge what you can, support their company. They've got a lot of good authors in the pipeline ready to go, and there are a couple of fantastic guys. We've had them both on the show. Steve is a really, really great author and matter kind of an and Rhett obviously wrote The Circuit, very good author. So wish them the best of luck with their company. And so if you can, head over to Kickstarter. The link is in the live chat on YouTube. It'll be in the show notes as well. Head over to Kickstarter and support their company. And so let's go back, and I want to touch Lauren's question before we move on. And right at the beginning of the show, and we briefly talked about it, but can we kind of delve into this battle plan that you talked about and kind of go through how you went through publishing, let's just say your first book or your first like wildly successful book? Like, what did you put into that book to make it successful, and how did you go about that, from outline idea to publishing?
Okay. First thing I did was prepare to fail. This is really important. When I decided, The Long Way Down was my first book, my first published book, and that was the one that got tied up for a year while I was writing the sequels. And when I decided to self-publish it, the first thing I said was, this is not going to sell. Because I'd been doing research, I'd realized by then that series,
Series is it?
Never get that right.
Series.
That's were the way to go.
The plural of series.
And they really are. I mean, I love standalone books. I love reading standalone books. But when you're trying to build a readership, a series is perfect because you put out the first book, you put out the second book, people notice it, they go back and see the first book because they missed it the first time around. You put out the third book, people miss the first two books, go out and see it and pick it up. Ideally, if you're doing well, you're building momentum that way. So it's really important. I knew that from day one was going to be my plan.
Right.
From there, basically, I'd already written the first couple of sequels. Yeah, I think by the time The Long Way Down came out, book 2 was completely done. Book 3 was in editing. So I was, ready to go. I was poised. I knew I wanted to release the first 3 in like 3-month increments, really close together. But I expected the first one to fail. I said, you know what? I'm preparing myself right now. If I sell a copy a day, I'll be happy. Because most of my research told me, a series does not pick up into the third book if it's going to pick up at all. And you can't know, You have to commit to a series. You have to commit to at least 3 books. It could still fail. You don't know until you get there. But unless you go that far, you're never going to know if it could have taken off.
And I think as a creative person, it's easy to daydream the best.
Oh yeah,
I think that catches us up. We can all fall into that trap. But
I think everybody we all still dream about that lightning strike.
I still do. I do this for a living. I've been doing this for a living for years. I still hope that my next book is going to be the one, and suddenly like Lin-Manuel Miranda is going to be tweeting about it because he fell in love with it, and now I'm hanging out backstage in Hamilton.
Yeah,
there you go.
I had to pay for a ticket.
So what happened after you prepared to fail?
Put it together. I'm a really big proponent of scheduling. I figured out how long editing was going to take, how long cover design was going to take. I talked to everybody involved with the process to get realistic estimates. So that way I could hammer everything out on a schedule. I used Excel. I use Excel for everything. So that way I could just look and say, okay, this is what my November is. This is what my December is. This is what my January is. This is what I can expect and what I need to have done at every stage of this situation.
Okay, well, feeding into that scheduling, what does a writing day look like for you? Like, obviously, you're tracking word counts and stuff, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I aim for about 3,000 words a day. Okay. I generally work 7 days a week. I do not take days off unless I'm absolutely sick or excessively tired or on the edge of burnout. All right, here's the thing. I am an incredibly unhealthy workaholic. I do not have anything resembling a normal or healthy or balanced life. I do not recommend what I do to anyone. What I do is dangerous and bad and imbalanced. You should not emulate me in any fucking way. But this is what I do. My average day,
this guy.
I get up in the morning. I make coffee. I've started doing this intermittent fasting thing to lose weight. Which
I'm
basically,
doing that too.
Oh, okay, cool. So I'm doing the thing. I don't eat between like 8 p.m. and noon the next day.
Yeah, I'm doing a 16-8 and I start at 2 and I end at 10. That way I can have my whiskey at night.
Yeah, that's important. Can't miss that. And sometimes I cheat, just a little bit. I cheat. I don't know when. Some nights I cheat.
Yeah,
maybe you should. You definitely need to. Sure.
That happens. But so that saves me the time of having to deal with breakfast, so I can get my momentum started right away.
Right.
I make my coffee. I get behind the keyboard. I start working. Generally, I'll work until noonish. I'm hungry for lunch. I'll take a quick break. If I've got some lunch I can eat at my desk, I'll do that. Because I find that if I'm really in the zone, if I'm just getting in there and getting the word count down and making progress, if I take too long for lunch, it's hard to get back behind the keyboard and get back into that feeling.
Right.
Because when you're in the zone writing, you are in the zone. You're in that moment. You can do anything. You can do
That's
it forever.
The magic.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't always do it. I don't know how many days out of the week I manage to do it, but when you do it, it's precious. But anyway, so I'll take lunch. I'll continue to write until about 4 or 5 in the evening. After that depends on what my current situation is. Like right now, I've got 2 books coming out from publishers next year in various stages of editing. So I've got to take a few hours every day to kind of work on that editing and make progress. Or I've got outlining to do for my next book. I've got brainstorming to do. I've always got something to do unrelated to the actual book I'm working on.
Right.
So I'll do that until about 7 o'clock, and I'll fold dinner into that. And then the rest of the night, I actually, breathe and recuperate and talk to other human beings and try to be social sometimes.
What do you do when you're just not feeling it? Because we all have those days. We just don't want to write the words? I mean,
Gotta
do you have
do it
days
anyway.
like you just
I look
you
at my
just
bills.
you look at
Honestly, I do this full time.
nice.
That's true.
I think about how, when I worked in the corporate sector, there were times I didn't feel like doing that job either, but I couldn't tell my boss, I'm not feeling accounting today. Yeah, I know the book's got to get balanced, but I'm just not into it.
I just don't want a number today.
We've all had jobs or family responsibilities that we don't want to do, but you can't not do them.
Right. Now, what I will do,
why is writing any different?
Yeah. What I will do, and this might help people, there's always scenes that you are okay to write and the scenes you really want to write. Scenes you were just like, I can't wait. This is going to be so much fun. I try to save those for the days that I feel like I can't write. I'll be like, okay, I'm hating this. I'm hating everything I put down. Let's do that scene I've been really excited about. And usually, 500 words into that, I'm smiling and I'm off to the races again. It's great.
So to piggyback on that, what you just said, writing the cool scenes when you're having a low day, that to me tells me that you do a little bit of plotting at least.
Oh, I am 100% plot. 100%.
Which means we're best friends. And so
you also use Scrivener and
then we could be like, yes, super best friends. So does that also go into your master plan, your battle plan is outlining and knowing how long it's going to take you to write a certain thing and to get to there, so you can have a schedule of this book's going to be out in such and such a day and this book's going to be out in such and such a month or whatever? You have all that stuff planned out because of your outlines, or how does that work?
Largely because of my outlines. When I started the Daniel Faust series, I knew I was going to aim for like a 15 to 20 book long series. And one of the first things I did was decide how it ends. I actually wrote the last scene of the last Daniel Faust novel. I'm sure when I finally get there, it's going to change 10 times over, but it's written. I know how the series ends.
Huh.
Don't tell Chuck.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm keeping that to myself. I plot big story arcs way in advance. People who've read the Faust series know, like when you get to Double or Nothing, and there's a character named Navarasi, and I'm avoiding spoilers, but it turns out she's been planning something since like book 2 of the series. The only way I could have made that work was if I knew by the time I wrote book 2 what she was going to do. It's like I really hate what I call Lost style plotting or Battlestar Galactica plotting. The Cylons have a plan, and then we find out, no, the Cylons didn't have a plan because the writers didn't have a fucking plan, and they were making it up as they went along.
They were faking it to make it.
Yeah, and you can't do that. It's not fair to readers to give them a mystery that doesn't have an answer. It's not right. I have an ethical issue with it. If I'm going to present a mystery, I know the answer to that mystery because I want to make the payoff good. I want to make it pleasing and satisfying.
Well, that's just storytelling. I mean, you gotta have that resolution.
Right. It's so easy to say.
Just to say, fuck Navarasi. I hate that. Anyway.
Good. I'm doing my job. You're supposed to hate her.
You are. She's nasty. I don't like her. But anyway.
But yeah, it's so easy to say, okay. Oh, and then what happens next? A polar bear attacks the heroes.
Right,
Why was there a polar bear? Why was there a polar bear? Look over there, a pirate ship. Why is there a pirate ship? Then they find a hatch in the ground and a computer they have to type numbers into. It's like, you just layer this shit, and people understandably expect an awesome answer in proportion to the awesome mystery you're laying out. If you can't deliver it, you're betraying your readers. It's not fair.
Yeah.
You can't just throw a llama in there and make it work. It takes more.
It's true. You can't just say llama. Don't do that.
You can't just throw a llama and fix everything.
Right. Well, it's like they say, truth is stranger than fiction, and that's true because fiction is supposed to make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
So you gotta have your stories ready, constructed to a satisfying conclusion.
Well, you mentioned polar bears, which brings up Lost, which is the hugest, biggest letdown of history on TV shows. Because I love that show, and the entire first season set up so many cool things, including a goddamn polar bear that they never ever came back to. And
just think how insanely cool it would have been if all that stuff paid off. If there was one episode where it's like, this is why this happened, this is why this happened, boom.
Yep, absolutely. That there was all set up and no satisfaction. It was just.
What are those writers to Lost doing now? I wonder.
Well, J.J. Abrams is doing pretty good.
He's doing all right. He's done a couple of things since then. So Craig, you say you're 100% plotter, planner, all that stuff. How detailed are you? Or like, let's say just one book. How detailed is your plotting? I mean, do you go down to like the chapter level, or do you just have the main plot points you want to hit and some notes between? How far into does your outlines go?
Usually I start with, it's called the snowflake method. Basically, you write like another one. You write a paragraph, and each paragraph is like, what's the setup? What's the problem your main character faces? What's the climax?
Right.
Then you take each sentence and expand that into a paragraph. So by that point, you have a rough skeletal outline of all the big beats. Yeah. Now, in a normal snowflake system, you're supposed to take that further and expand each of those, because it's called a snowflake because it's a fractal. You're making your outline bigger with each generation. Building out. I stop there. What I do from there is once I have an idea of what I'm dealing with, I break it down into the beat level. Like, dash, so-and-so goes here, dash, so-and-so talks to so-and-so, they learn this, et cetera, et cetera. And I break it down. It's not necessarily chapter by chapter because I don't know how it's going to flow until I start writing it.
Right.
But I do try to get every major event. Now, to be fair, like I think any writer, I'll get halfway into a book and I'll be like, well, wait, this is what I said was going to happen, but it would be so much cooler and make more sense if this happened. And then all of a sudden I'm in the weeds again.
Yeah, well, that's the fun part. Yeah, that's kind of the fun part, though, is that discovery writing between the two big points. That's the part
I never feel bad when I do discovery like that because there's always a better answer than what I had originally planned.
That's why I always throw the flag and call bullshit on people that don't outline because they don't want to miss out on the discovery of writing. Like,
no, that's not.
Discovery will happen no matter what.
It will always happen whether you outline every sentence or every.
Well, if you outline every sentence, you've written the book.
Yeah, there is that. I know there are people who will write 5 paragraphs per chapter, and that is too much outlining to me. That's like, I just write down what happens here, then I go do it.
Josh and I know a guy who had a 57,000 word outline or something like that.
Wow.
You know what I'm talking about, Josh, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's a very
that's a novella. That's not an outline.
Yeah, I was going to say, unless you're writing a 250,000 word book, that's that's just a little over the top, isn't it?
Pretty intense on the.
So I'm curious, what are your novels? They run what's the genre? 65, 70,000 words?
Generally, the Faust books and the Harmony books all run around 90,000 words.
90,000.
The Wisdom's Grave trilogy so far has run around 120,000.
So I'm curious on those books, how long were your initial, like, this is the bare bones outline when you go through and you write all that stuff down and then snowflake out from there?
Probably about 5,000 words, I'm going to say. They're good sized. And also, with Wisdom's Grave trilogy, the entire story is wrapped in a framing device. And I'm not spoiling anything by saying you know really early on that one of the two people involved in the framing device is setting something up. So basically, it's building up. I want to call it a Usual Suspects ending, even though it's nothing to do with usual. It's not that twist ending.
Greatest movie
in case anyone here has not seen Usual Suspects, turn this off.
Only have
to go watch it.
And go watch Usual Suspects.
If you have not ever watched Usual Suspects, you don't need to be watching this show. You need to be going and watching
that.
Exactly. Yes. Just go do it now.
So say.
But this is basically the trilogy is building up to my take on that kind of ending, where it's like all of a sudden everything cascades and you see all the stuff that was in front of you the entire time.
So cool. Yeah,
love that.
I don't know if I'm gonna pull it off. I'm gonna try real hard. I mean, either it's gonna be a fantastic failure or it's gonna be a wonderful success. And I'm again gambling. I'm rolling the dice here to see if I'm good enough.
There you go.
Right.
But to do an ending like that, I had to know from the first page of the first book what happens through the entire trilogy. Because I had to seed all those clues and make sure they were spread out, make sure I was treating them right, make sure I was playing fair with the reader. So, the trilogy could not have been written by Pansing.
Right.
I like the idea of playing fair with the reader. That's a good thing to keep in mind when you're writing. Because if not, then who's going to read your books, right?
Right. I love my readers. My readers are the fucking best. They are awesome. They are so good to me.
Well, let's talk about that a minute, since I'm one of them.
Let's talk about Chuck.
Starting with Chuck.
Number one fan.
let's talk about how you. Well, we had a question. I think it was Ken earlier. He wanted to know how you got so many reviews on one of your books. I don't remember which. I think it was the first Faust book. It had like 1,500 reviews. And he wanted
that would be Harmony Black.
Oh, was that Harmony Black? Okay.
Yes.
He wanted to know. Yeah, go ahead.
Harmony Black was chosen for the Kindle First program, which is a limited program that basically, at the start of the month, first of the month, if you're in Amazon Prime, and I didn't even know this at first, so if you're in Amazon Prime, check this out. It's a cool way to get free books. There are 5 pre-chosen books that you can basically you pick one, you get for free, period. No strings attached. You just pick the one you want, you download it. So Harmony Black was chosen for a Kindle First, which basically meant like over 100,000 people got this book for free. Dang. It was, I had no income whatsoever for the first month it was live. But the counterpart was a lot of those people wrote reviews. Yeah. So when it finally went live for sale a month later, it had a shit ton of positive reviews because people liked it.
It was good. It was good.
And that can backfire. I mean, I've seen Kindle First books that just get savage editorially, and all of a sudden a month later they're going into, live production and they've got 100,000 1 stars. So again, back to gambling.
Yeah. Well, actually,
so I was given the option.
Live chat says,
they said, "Do you want to do this? Do you want to take a chance and get in Kindle First?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's do it. I have faith in the book. Let's try it out," and it paid off.
Ashley Howard in the live chat says, Harmony is a badass female protagonist.
She is indeed, and so is her partner.
She is. They are. Thank you, Ashley.
Yes, good stuff. So how do you interact with your fans? I mean, is that in marketing also? I mean, do you do like Amazon ads, stuff like that?
I do Amazon ads to a limited extent. I'm not sure I really understand Amazon ads to the extent that a lot of really, it's like I throw some money up there, I throw some text up there, I hope it works.
Right. Yeah.
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I don't do a lot of conscious marketing. I'm not like, hey, buy my book. Like Twitter, I hang out on Twitter. Twitter is I post. I shit post things that are occasionally amusing to me. Yeah. And if people like it, they follow me, and that's it. It's a place to hang out. Because I think readers respond to being genuine. If you're yourself, if you're just presentable and approachable, it's cool. And, I put my email address in each of my books. I try to respond to every email I get. I know I miss some just because of the sheer volume, and I feel bad about that. But, I try to make readers know that, I'm approachable. I'm a person. There's lots of ways they can reach me, and here I am. And sometimes it's really all it takes, just to let readers know you're another human being. You're an artist, but you're also like them. You're trying to make something cool for them, and, they respond to it.
So write good books and don't be a dick. That's pretty much.
Don't be a dick. It's important. Publishing is a really small industry. And I mean, I have been, it's like a lot of people think if you sell a ton of books that you've got it made and you'll have publishers beating down your door, you'll have all these opportunities. It's like, I have been at cocktail parties with publishers talking about people who were, I'm obviously not going to name, but people who were like, just rocketing up the Kindle charts via various means and machinations. And they just said, I don't care how much that guy sells. He will never get an offer from us in no uncertain terms because he's a dick.
Because he's a dick. Yeah. Well,
do not be a dick. Word gets around. You are your reputation. It's why I've tried to make a name where it's like people who work with me know I do not miss deadlines. I've never in my writing career missed a deadline. I will cancel vacations. I will cancel anything. I'll move heaven and earth to hit a deadline because I wanted from day one, this is part of the battle plan. I wanted to be known as a person who would get things done because a lot of writers flake. And when you're dealing with people who like, all right, say you've got an editor. They're scheduling a block of time for you. If you miss your deadline, you don't get them that book. They can't just suddenly go and say, oh, I'm going to find another writer to give me a job for that period of time. They're screwed. They've got nothing to fill that time.
Right.
So if you make it known from day one, they can count on you. You're going to get preferential treatment when it comes to deciding, hey, I've only got a little bit of time here. I need somebody I can count on.
It seems like a good way to stand out. We're always looking for ways to stand out, like through a great book cover, through a flashy book description. But in the business, being somebody who's dependable, you'd stand out.
Right. In the business world, be a person of your word. That's how you stand out.
That's just professional.
It's sad that makes you stand out, but it's true.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some careers, if you just show up, you stand out. So
this is true.
That's another story. We won't go there. Or if you have a llama, you will also stand out if you have a llama with you. I'm just throwing that in.
This llama thing is worrying me, man. This is worrying me.
Well,
what I need to do is get like one of those remote controlled dog shock collars and then give it to Scott one day.
You can always
and
mute
then
yeah, you can mute my mic probably, because didn't we test that out in the earlier show?
Oh yeah, that's right. I could mute him.
So, Craig, what's coming down the pike for Daniel and Harmony and the rest of the gang?
Coming down the pike, well, the third book of the Wisdom's Grave trilogy, Bring the Fire, is going to be out hopefully in December. Manuscript's done. I finished it yesterday.
Awesome.
Spent the rest of the day curled under my desk in a fetal ball. So
good, I can binge that one then.
Yeah, and editing. I think it goes to my editor tomorrow. So so we'll have that underway. After that, next year, I've got 2 releases already planned from 2 publishers. 47 North is putting out my book Ghosts of Gotham, which I'm really excited about.
Tell us.
It's not related to the existing continuity. It's set in its own continuity. My first book is not connected to any of the others.
Okay.
And it's a style change. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time. It's not urban fantasy. It's more contemporary fantasy in the vein of like Neil Gaiman.
Okay.
And it is basically, I'm calling it my love letter to New York City, Hecate, and 18th century dark romanticism.
Wow.
It's a story about a professional hoax debunker who is hired by a reclusive heiress to go to New York City and find a lost manuscript by Edgar Allan Poe. And what he finds is a trail of dead bodies and a whole lot of mysteries leading up to this elusive manuscript. And the ending, which is different from the original published ending, may be world-changing in its significance.
Huh.
What's that meme they're always circulating? Shut up and take my money. Something like that.
Take my money. That's awesome.
That sounds fantastic.
So he can throw it in
That's
his computer
I'm just
screen.
gonna like shove it through the camera.
I'm excited about it. It's different from what I've written, but it's like the Revanche Cycle. It is a concentrated change of style that I wanted to do to improve myself as a writer.
Sure.
And it's basically feels like where I'm headed. It's very big. It's like I think 160,000 words, which is it's not like a Sanderson doorstop. But for me, who usually writes 90,000 words, it's a big book.
What are your thoughts and feelings on Sanderson? Because one of the show hosts needs to know the answer to this question.
I haven't read him actually.
I've read 2 and I wasn't impressed.
I hear he seems like a really cool guy. Absolutely nothing saying against the guy. I just haven't gotten around to reading.
He does really good YouTube teaching videos. So what kind of what's your?
We're best friends, and I'm gonna mute Chuck. So,
so Craig, what do you use? You a Scrivener guy, a Word guy?
I'm a Scrivener guy.
Tools? You are a Scrivener guy.
Yes, and also because we all know Scrivener and love Scrivener because we should, because Scrivener is God. Also, by the literature and latte people, I use Scalpel, which is their outlining
tool. Their little brain mapping.
Yes, it is a brain mapping tool. Basically, you get it's like flowcharts. You get little bubbles on the screen. You can position anywhere you want. It is fantastic for early outlining.
Yeah,
I'll go in early outlining with a rough idea. I'm like, so and so happens, and it's cool, and it leads to this other thing. And I have no idea how these 2 things connect, but it's gonna be awesome. So I'll just write those down in bubbles, and I'll write down other ideas in bubbles and start drawing lines between them. And next thing I know, I've got a story.
Yeah.
So
I've used that.
Check that out. It's like $15. So
it's a handy little. I've used it before. It's a handy little, like you said, brain idea mapping kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of the times, like if you sit down with a pad and a paper and a pen, it's easier to outline or plot an idea out than just kind of going straight down the page. And Scalpel is really needed. You draw a bubble and then you go over here to another bubble, and you don't have to like scroll up and down a page. You just jump around the area and write down your ideas, and then at some point connect them all. So that's really cool.
If, like me, your handwriting is completely illegible, even better.
Yeah.
Pen and pad is not an option for me because I can't read what I just wrote 10 minutes ago. I'm like, what did I say?
What is that?
I struggle sometimes.
So I've got one more question that I'd like to throw at you, and it's a question that I want to start asking most of our indie authors that we have on the show, and that's a question about diversity or diversification. And with what's happened recently on Amazon with some big name authors that have basically got just the axe from Amazon from either no foul of their own or because they were trying to screw the system. My whole outlook on this is to not have all my eggs in one basket, to have traditional publishers deals, to have audiobook deals, to have, new pub deals and indie published deals. And so all the money is coming from different directions. Is that some place where you are looking at going, or are you there now? Do you see value in that?
Diversification is important. The more revenue streams you have, the safer you are. That's basic entrepreneurship. In my particular case, because I am published by 2 Amazon imprints, well, I will be published by 2 Amazon imprints. I'm published by 47 North, and I have another book coming out from Thomas and Mercer next year. Because those books are automatically into Kindle Unlimited and are automatically exclusive, for me, it makes sense to have all my other stuff be exclusive. Because that way, a person who has Kindle Unlimited can read all my stuff, my indie stuff, my trad published stuff. They can get it all in one place. Especially considering everything I write is set in the same shared universe, it makes even more sense.
Yeah.
Right.
If someone was just coming into the market today and didn't have an established base, I would caution them to think very strongly about diversification. I tried it early on. When I started indie publishing, it was back in the Kindle Unlimited 1.0 days where everything was short stories.
Mm-hmm.
So they paid by the page, and it was like they paid by the finished work, but it was like if your work was 5 pages, you got paid the same as a full novel.
Right.
Insane, but it was that way for a long time.
Yeah.
And at that point, Kindle Unlimited wasn't useful to me because, why? So I tried going through Kobo and Apple, and even then, the amount of sales I made were dwarfed by Amazon. I think the amount I made on Kobo the entire year I was on that site was 1 day of my Amazon sales.
Right.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And to be fair, some people make a living on Kobo. I don't know how they do it. I know they do it. Whatever they're doing, I did it wrong, but it's possible. Kindle Unlimited is a tremendous tool, boosts visibility, but you are, again, putting all your eggs in one basket. My number one advice to people just coming into the market now, whether they diversify in that sense or not, get into audio. Audiobook fans are a separate revenue stream. There are people who only listen to audiobooks. If you aren't on audio, there's a whole market you're missing out on because they will never read your stuff. They might even be aware of you, but they only listen to audiobooks.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm about to get my first one.
I think you'll find that you're going to reach new people who never heard of you before and never picked you up. So, that's, and especially considering, yes, you have to pay for the production. And production is also very expensive. I paid about $5,000 for an audiobook.
Yeah.
But long tail. Eventually, assuming your book is not a total flop, eventually you're going to make it up. And once you pay it off, everything past that is profit going forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and the book is written. You've done the hard work. All you got to do now is pick a narrator and pay for the production. So why would you do it if you can afford it?
Absolutely.
The great thing about audiobook too is, well, there's 2 great things. One,
there's a lot of great things.
You
I
can
love
do
audio.
all the stuff that you need to do in your life. Like I have very little time to sit down and read. So if I'm doing the dishes or mowing the grass or whatever, I can listen to a book and have a good time. The other cool thing is you get the right narrator and they really bring your book to life, and just, different voices, different accents, stuff that you wouldn't read on a normal book. But then also people are buying the audiobook because the narrator is reading it.
Right. You get access to their fans.
Absolutely.
So
That's
it's not
real
just
thing.
they're not just buying your book, they're buying it because so and so read it, and that just drives more people into your stream.
It drives my wife crazy because she'll talk about movies and actors and say that's so and so, and she'll say their names or this and that, or like in a band, and she'll know who's in the band and all that. And I don't know any of that, but I know like 50 different voice actors. I can tell you all about them because that's my thing. I love books.
The thing is,
audiobooks.
when I'm working on a manuscript, one part of my first, because before I send it to a beta reader or whatever, I always do like a rough pass for obvious misspellings and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And part of that process for me is reading it out loud to myself. But I had the narrator that I'm working with, he read the first 5 chapters of the book that he's going to do for me. The way he reads it and the way I read it, there's such a huge disconnect there because he's not just reading it, he's performing it. And that is, I knew there would be a difference. I just didn't realize how much of a difference that makes. I mean, it's completely a whole other experience.
Yeah.
Even my wife was like, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. My narrator, Susanna Jones, is actually a New York stage actress. Right?
Yeah.
She does audiobooks as a side gig. So she performs my books as an actress. And elevates to the point that I tell people, it's like, if she's going to do one of my books, don't read my book. Pick up her audio version because she makes it that much better.
Yeah, I love it.
I agree.
And Chuck, I'll have to say that I listened to some of the
Sorceress podcast.
That I haven't heard the podcast where you guys are doing the question and answer.
The interview hasn't gone live yet, but he did the first 5 chapters like an episode or 2 ago.
Yeah, no, that I thought he did it really, really well. I was really impressed.
Yeah.
I'm always kind of skeptical with narrators that I haven't heard before. Obviously, I think that's with anything you go into, but that guy really did a really good job on your material.
And he read the whole book and he was very enthusiastic about it. So I think I lucked out there.
Yeah, that is cool.
Well, we are coming to the end of the hour. This has been a fantastic episode, Craig, and it's been a blast to have you on. Do you have a website that our viewers and listeners can go and check you out at?
Yeah, I'm at craigschaeferbooks.com, all one word, because craigschaefer.com was taken by a squatter, and they wanted like $3,000 for the site, and I said, haha, no. Yeah. I'm also at Craig_Schaefer on Twitter, and Craig Schaefer Books on Facebook. So I'm easy to find.
Awesome.
I posted in the show notes your website and your Amazon author page will be listed in the show notes. And if you're watching live, just Google or go onto Amazon and search Craig Schaefer. It's the first one that comes up, and you can get all of his books there. And please do so if you're into.
And they are fantastic, and everyone needs to go get them right now.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Oh, it was a blast. We'll have to have you back on in season 4 after you do this new cool Usual Suspects ending on the book, which I'm going to say that's a huge thing to
that's
put
ambitious,
yourself up against. You don't say that just for anything.
Oh, I know. I if I fail at this, I'm going to fail so hard it's going to sting me for years. It's all the gamble, man.
Come on and tell us how to deal with that.
It's all the gamble.
Yeah,
I'm deliberately taking this risk of saying I'm going for it just to make it that much harder for me and to make sure I can't weasel out of it.
There you go. I like it.
I'm excited for it, man. I'm really Usual Suspects is my #1 favorite movie of all time. So
as it should be.
Yeah, it's a great one, no doubt.
We're gonna have to spoil that. We're gonna have to talk about that. Maybe next week we'll spoil it for everybody.
We can watch it live. We have like the People's Couch or something, and we'll watch The Usual Suspects.
Oh, like Mystery Science Theater 3000. Only it's KSM, and we can have all of our
we're having little silhouettes in there.
Yeah. Well, Craig, again, thanks so much for taking some time out of your Monday to come and hang out with us. It's been a blast.
Thanks for having me. It was a great time.
Okay, everyone, thanks for hanging out in the live chat. Always good shenanigans and carrying on in there. Maybe next week we'll try our Facebook Live broadcast. We'll see if it works out. It worked on the test. I deleted the test earlier because they were full of just ridiculous testing, and there was nothing really of value to present. So
it's going to be cool.
I think it's going to be neat. I think people will like it. I think it's going to be a new way to connect with people, and then we can share it around and hopefully get some more interaction and people coming to the show. So next week will be a round table. Not quite sure on the topic yet. That'll be decided. The 17th, we have Peter F. Hamilton coming on the show, and on the 24th, Chris Porto and David Bruns. So it's going to be a action-packed month here on Keystroke Medium. We have a couple Thursday night wild cards coming up as well. Look for Richard Fox on the 20th. That should be a really neat episode. Chuck's going to
talking about some cool
MC that one. He's got some cool stuff coming down the pike. So I think we're going to have a really great September. Everybody, come back next week. We're definitely going to talk about some reading. We're definitely talking about some writing. And, of course, everything here in between right here on Keystroke Medium. You guys have a fantastic Monday.
Llama.
Later, guys.
Llama.